Hi, Chris.
What up, man?
How have you been?
Pretty good, dude. Um, just been keeping busy, basically, and finishing out the semester.
All right, so why don't you tell everybody who you are and what you do?
So my name is Chris Reyes. I'm an audio engineer and a producer for music. I have gotten to work with a lot of really cool people and have my own band called Say Our Mind that I do guitar and vocals in.
All right, so say your mind. I was just jamming some of your songs last night. It's really good. I never really like listened to it as like just kind of like to listen to it. I did always kind of have it in the background, but last night is my first time actually just listening to it, and it's really great. My favorite is probably 13, which I think it's your top song on Spotify.
Yeah, that's the one with Marcus on it.
Yeah, that one's really good. I love that. Who mixed that one?
Hell yeah. David Kaplinger from Soothsayer Audio. We sent him off the mix and masters, uh, and I think that's actually the first one that he did. Because I was supposed to be shooting the music video with it, and I needed that one like ASAP. So he like went into like speed mode and just like mixed it really quick, sent me a couple roughs like on the way over there, and it came out really good.
Yeah. So you do recording, producing. Let's talk about that. So let's start from the beginning. Where did you start recording, and how did you get into it?
So when I was younger, I had kind of put together like a little band around, I think maybe like my freshman year. Um, and I really wanted to start getting into, doing the whole music scene and stuff. And uh, I was like, man, I want to really start like working on writing songs and this and that, and not really knowing like the whole long road that can uh, that can bring out. So basically, I was like, well, I have to go pick up a guitar. I think at the time I had a guitar on layaway, and I was like, well, I'm gonna go pick up that guitar, and then I'm gonna see what I could find, like recording wise, that's like within my budget, which really wasn't my budget. That was like my dad's. And then I found this little what is it? It's like a little audio dongle for your for like your iPod or whatever, so I could start recording on GarageBand. So I started out with just straight up GarageBand and not knowing what the hell I was doing, but I got down like a lot of ideas. So like 13 I think was like one of them, like one of the first ones that I did on there. I think around maybe like because I had written 13 when I was 13, but I think I recorded it officially once I was in high school. So like maybe around like 15 years old.
Yeah. So was it what kind of just like you wanted to start learning how to record on your own, or was it that typical thing where your studios are kind of too much money, so you rather try to invest in it yourself and learn on your own kind of thing?
It was a little bit of both, just because I felt like I always was like the one to like I would set a goal of like, oh dude, well it'd be really sick if we had this. So like that's what I want to save for next. And yeah, like recording was one of those things where I was like, dude, I know that's going to be a lot of money, and I'm not going to have enough money right now with like no job. So I was like, I might as well just start saving for this stuff. And then, maybe I could get something better in the future and just keep building off of that. So it kind of stemmed off of that. I didn't really have like an interest in doing like production or recording. I just wanted to do it so I could, further my chances of like being a musician, if that makes any sense. But
Yeah, yeah.
uh once I once I did get it and I started like really diving into like recording and stuff, dude, I just loved it. Like it was like a different ball game for me because I could literally hear like the things in my head going on, like but recorded down. So it wasn't anymore like me trying to explain like singing to someone like, oh, it'd be really cool if it did this or that. Like now I could just show them. So that's
Yeah,
that's kind of
yeah.
where it stemmed off from.
So you've been recording for how many years now?
If I let me see, so it's 2014 till now. I think it's been like about 8 years.
Wow, 8 years. What are you using to record everything on your end for the podcast?
So right now, for microphone, I'm using my Sphere, um, and then I have that running into my Apollo into 1073, and then from there, so like the spheres are a little weird, so you have to run like the Sphere plugin just so you could do the mic modeling. So I got the pre first, and then going into the Sphere, and then from the Sphere, I have it going into the Howard Benson vocals. Like I have a nice little setup that it sounds clean and basically has a good compressor. It's like a good little channel strip, and then that goes into because I kind of don't want to go in on my own and have to like gate everything. So I just ran the FabFilter Pro G, and working pretty good.
Yeah, that sounds good. So you're going all digital?
Yeah, yeah, all digital.
So I'm going all analog. I'm going the SM7B with the cloud lifter, going into my Behringer 2 preamp, and have that patched into my Warm Audio 1176, and straight into my converters.
Hell yeah.
So we talk a lot about stuff like the Quad Cortex or uh, Apollo or Apollo versus analog. So what kind of system do you do? Do you do mainly hybrid? Do you do all digital, or what do you mainly do?
So like, I guess just to give like a basic rundown on my setup, I do have an Apollo, the X8P Heritage model. So that's like kind of like my main, like workhorse. I have, since I'm using Mac, like they can use aggregate devices, so you could just plug in as many interfaces as you want, and it'll connect them all together. So I have the Apollo running as like my main. I have my twin, that it's like another little mini Apollo. That one is kind of like chained into the Apollo, so they work together. You can set them up through their software. So that's kind of like my controller slash extra two inputs, and then I also have a Behringer Euphoria 1820. I think it's an 1820. I have that as well. That was like my interface that I've had since high school. Um, and I use that one for now that I'm doing a lot more like live drum stuff, or at least practicing with it. I'm using that as well for like some extra outputs or extra inputs. And I usually run that stuff in there. I think the Behringer runs like Midas preamps, and they sound pretty good. I don't have any issues with them.
Yeah, the Behringer stuff is actually pretty good for the price. Like I'm using the one of their old 2 preamps, and it sounds really great. The chain I'm using right now, I used to record vocals about a week ago with, and it was probably the best sounding vocals I've ever recorded yet, just because of that low mid range warmth from the 2 preamp, and then with that with the compressor, that little weight from the transformers that you get, that extra push, it just really made them cut through. I don't have to do the stuff that I usually do to vocals to make them come through, but
Yeah.
like just the weight and feel and push that you get with some of these preamps, and nothing high end, like it's a Behringer 2 preamp, right? Just that push from the 2 preamp and the transformers, it really kind of just gives it this whole lift. And I haven't done a direct A and B comparison, going direct compared to going full analog, but it just feels different, and it in a good way. And I haven't found anything that's beaten that yet.
Yeah, if it works, it works. I know a lot of I kind of opened up a lot more to Behringer stuff. Once I came to the university here in Corpus, because one of the professors that I go to, he's the one that actually introduced me to like the school and everything. Like I came and met with him for music industry stuff, and dude, he loves like a lot of Behringer stuff. Like he
Yeah.
doesn't blindly love it, like to where he's like, I'm not gonna look at any of the flaws, but uh, he kind of helped push like, dude, like just get one of these and it'll work fine. Like they have Midas preamps in there, they sound great, and that's kind of why like I always kept like Behringer in mind for certain things, because it's like, they get the job done pretty well, and I haven't had any issues with the Euphoria or the X32 like at all.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you know JHS pedals?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they have a YouTube channel. I don't know if you check out their channel, but the owner Josh, he did a shootout between the Behringer pedals that recently came out like a few years ago, and then the original ones that they're cloning,
Mm.
and they sound identical. So like a vintage blues drive that probably going for $200 right now, Behringer selling it exact same sound for $20. And then in that video, I don't know if you got to watch it. In the video, Josh explains how Behringer owns basically most of the chips that all the boutique brands buy from. It's like all the
Yeah.
delayed chips, some of the stuff. So it's the exact same sound that the high end pedals have that Behringer sells. So it's a great deal. The only thing is about the Behringer is the plastic housings are kind of cheap.
Yeah. I mean, but like, if you take care of it, it should be fine. That's kind of why, like, some of the clone stuff that I've messed with, dude, like, it's just kind of like you can't really tell at that point.
Yeah, like same thing with the Quad Cortex. The capture software that they have in it is so great that you can't even tell the difference in a live setting.
Dude, so actually, speaking of that, so when I was in Houston, um, I did bring my quad, in case if I needed to help Raymond with recording or anything, and he had the band Diosa in there, and they had just recorded a good chunk of their EP. It hasn't come out yet, but um, I think he was using the Soldano DSP plugin, and he was running it on a trial, and it expired, so like we couldn't access it when he was trying to show us the tracks. And I was like, dude, just find one like real quick on the quad, and then dude, like no one will know. and we did that, and the vocalist came in. He was like, hey bro, like don't replace my shit, blah blah blah, like uh like I recorded like to where it sounded like the way he wanted. And actually what he was hearing while we were like letting it run was the quad. And I was like, dude, no, like that is the quad. Like that's that's what's playing right now. That's not your amp. And he was like, dude, I remember specifically it sounded just like that. And we just started cracking up. So it's like he couldn't tell the difference. He genuinely thought that was his amp.
Yeah, the Quad Cortex is great. It's probably the best investment I've ever made. It's just the perfect unit for anyone. Even if you're not a
You said,
guitarist, it's still great.
you said too that you can capture like preamps and stuff, right?
Yeah, I don't know if you know the producer George Lever out in the UK, but
Yeah.
he has I'll send you the capture if you don't have it, but he has a capture of his BAE 35 mic preamps, which are essentially just a 1073 clone.
Yeah.
Those sound amazing. I actually throw those at the end of all my guitar chains now because it kind of just pushes it. I keep using that word push and weight and momentum a lot. That's
Yeah.
I've been using that a lot lately, but it's like those preamps just kind of like give the source more life. Like I was actually gonna use it for the podcast chain, that preamp, but I wanted to try this one first, the all analog
Yeah.
chain first.
Yeah, no, with the quad too, like even now, like, cause I hate taking apart like my crap from the studio so I could bring it somewhere, for like recording purposes. But since the quad, kind of like an external thing, like it's now just since you can use it as an interface, dude, like that's all you literally need to bring. Get your DIs out of there. You can reamp with it. You can do vocals now with it, even with the Sphere, because for the Sphere you have to have two ends. Um, dude, I could run that thing on there and it would work perfectly fine. So that's actually going to be like my main workhorse for when I'm traveling, for like doing recording for pre-pro and stuff like that.
Yeah, I have a whole set list I'm making full of presets that's just going to be for recording like vocal chains or on the road, like just simple guitar stuff on the road or whatever.
Mm.
The Quad Cortex, it's great. It's better than all the other modelers and amp sim stuff out there because it has phantom power and has a bunch of other stuff. Only thing I wish it had was ADAT, so I could just ADAT it into my sound card.
Yeah. I didn't. That was the other thing too. I forgot about that. I can't even run my Sphere unless I have the phantom power. So that was like a big selling point for me too. It's like, dude, I could turn this into my own little workhorse and not even have to bring anything else.
Yeah, the Quad Cortex is still great. Do you know what the delay is still on that for people buying it?
I am not too sure. I went the what is the word? I went the fast route
The
and
secondhand
bought it
route.
off of. Yeah, I bought it off of someone else, but I mean, they compared to like some of the other prices, dude, that were on there. Like I think when I got it, it was like maybe around 2 G's, but there was other people that were selling it for 3 to 4 grand on Reverb, and this dude still had it in the box and everything, and the presentation he put on the photos was great. So I was like, I'm gonna go with that guy, and I
Yeah,
haven't had any problems with it.
I ordered mine early June and I got it mid October. And so it was, just straight from Sweetwater. And, it was worth the wait. I think you got yours like what, a month before me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember I just kept asking you questions about it before I got mine, just because I was so curious. If I were to restart my recording career, if I had to pick one thing, it would be the Quad Cortex because it has everything you would ever need.
Oh yeah, dude. Like if I had known about all the crap that it has on it, like I'm always very big on like, dude, if I have to save for something that's gonna replace a bunch of my crap and do what they do, but just as good, if not twice as better, like I'll go for it. And if I knew like it's gonna be 2 grand, but now you don't need uh you don't need like a guitar amp, you don't need something for vocals. You can copy like other people's captures and stuff and use them on there. You get DIs, reamping, like that literally takes out DI boxes, reamp boxes, like everything. You kind of just have like a Swiss Army knife in a box.
Yeah. So, have you recorded anything else besides guitar and bass through the Quad Cortex?
So far, no. I've only done guitar and bass. I do want to try messing with the vocal stuff later because I want to try and capture the pre that I use for my vocals. I just need to find like a general range that I like and then have to figure out all the routing for it. But I do want to capture the 1073. Um, that way I can see if it works with my vocals really well with the Townsend, and if it does, then shit, I'm set.
Yeah. I've been getting into more complex signal chains for guitars. So like I would do like two different 412 cabs blended together, or like I would do three mics on one cab.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I actually been I think with my captures I've been using like a long time ago when I got the Axe FX, I bought the Sinister Gates cabs and I use those at this point like religiously. I don't really touch too many other cab sims or cab IRs. So usually I'll run like a 4x12, and then I think I'll run like the Hellwind, and then either Princely or the Bogner captures, and those always like sound great.
Yeah. So what's your usual guitar chain looking like on for recording or writing?
So for pre-pro, um, I have a template that I run. For rhythms right now, I'm running the Petrucci DSP. So I'll just run my guitar signal through my torpedo reload that I have set for reamping. That goes into my interface. And then I run that signal into the Petrucci archetype. And then I send all my signals out to, or at least all my guitar signals out to like my main guitar bus that has the JST guitar bus glue. And I'll usually run that. As far as like in the Petrucci chain, I want to say it's just using I don't know which amp it is, but I know I usually run just like a general like tube screamer, go into the amp. I don't really do anything EQ wise for it, and then afterwards, I'll go into the mix that I have for my cab IRs with like the Hellwind and the either the Princely or the Bogner, and then once that goes out, I will kind of like cut some frequencies that are in there. Like majority of the time, I find them around like the 3 to 4K range.
Yeah.
And then there's sometimes a little bit like lower on the octave below. And I'll just do like just a small little cut there, like maybe like a 5 dB, just so it like I can like not hear that really high pitched frequency.
Yeah, yeah, that whistling kind of that's there.
Yeah, I had a video that I watched from Leon Todd. He does like a lot of cool um videos and tutorials on like the axe effects and different pieces of gear. And he had done one on like um where at one point he's like talking about EQ fishing, and I couldn't, like, after that video I could never unhear that stuff. So now I always, like, every single time I listen to a guitar amp, like, that's the first thing that I'm like, dude, can I hear that little whistling thing? Because if I can, it's gonna piss me off.
Yeah, you gotta check out. I don't know what the plugin's called exactly, but it's from Dan Corniff. His audio company, Corniff Audio. He has this
Yeah.
plugin that's just one big channel strip for guitars, and there's like a little section of the channel strip called insufferable mid range, and it's just
Mhm.
you just turn it down, and it'll cut out that whistling. And it's always set perfectly for whatever, and it's really great.
Yeah.
I haven't tried it. I've demoed it, but I haven't bought it yet. But I want to buy it though. It's really great.
How much
Um,
is it?
I'm not sure. I never checked.
Yeah, what do you
Because
yeah, I mean, that'd be pretty
I just
cool.
bought plugins from Kazrog, and like there's the True Iron, which is really great. It's one of my top 5 plugins, and then it was also the Synth Warmer, which is really great for
Yeah,
just
yeah.
tone shaping, general shaping. But
Oh yeah.
what are your signal chains looking like nowadays for on buses? Because that's something I'm kind of into right now. Is kind of like bus processing rather than individual processing. It's not really top
Yeah.
down stuff, but it's more like broad shaping, just to set the kind of general vibe for the mix.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So for right now, I'm doing so for vocals, I have two. So like in Pro Tools, like they just added not that long ago to where you can do like bus folders in a way. So I basically have two set up for my vocals. Since I'm using the Sphere, you technically are tracking a stereo track, but it throws it into mono. So I have those going out into one vocal chain, which is, I think I'm just running the Benson vocals for them, and then for my bus glue, I'm just using the JST bus glue. Uh, and then for guitars, I run that JST guitar bus glue. In bass, I'm running it just like, I guess that depends really. Like for bass, I'll either run my direct that goes into dark glass from Neural, and then I'll copy that chain, but use parallax for the sub, and then I'll
Yeah,
use Churko's I don't know what he calls it. It's like sublax or something like that. I'll use his sub one for my subs, and then I have I picked up a trick from Kaplinger, uh where I call it bass aura. I don't really know what the term is or who it's actually from. I think he says it at some point in his videos, but basically you're sending out just the high end signal from your main bass part into like the Valhalla space modulator.
yeah. I think
And
I've seen that.
yeah, and so I run that, and then I send out everything into the bass bus that has, I want to say it has what's that plugin from Submission Audio? Double Tap. So I run into Double Tap. Yeah, and then I also have Track Spacer on there. So I just put like a slight duck whenever my kicks are going off. Um just for low range so they don't fight too much. And then as far as drums go, I actually just kind of refined it a lot from watching some of like the Slate Academy videos. So I basically have like little sub mixes within my drum stuff. So I have like a little sub mix for my kicks, a little sub mix for my snare, and then I use a what is it called? There's a snare and tom verb that he uses, and then there's also a, I think he calls it like a something squash or whatever, which basically is like you're taking your overheads.
Oh, like kind of like having the overheads kind of give that tom sound, like the resonance for the
Well,
tom.
you kind of, so like it's basically like the point of it is if you recorded it in a room that's not really like a good room, it gives you a pretty good room sound. So like uh
Okay.
I'm working on like a cover that I am going to be doing drums on for it, and I wanted to try like not using a room mic because I mean my room's not really built for that. And it sounded like actually really good. I was kind of surprised without using like the mono room mic, like how it came out sounding, especially with that send. So I have that running, and then all of my drum stuff goes into a drum bus that is, I want to say it's the Slate Gray compressor.
Yeah, that's kind of like the SSL one, right?
Yeah, and then I just use that just a little bit, and then I have all those sent out, or at least all the instrumental stuff sent out to an instrumental bus. That's just so I could turn the instruments off, and then that goes into my mastering chain. And I want to say my mastering chain's just what is it? It goes into VMR, so I'll just have the VCC channel, and then Revival, and then that goes into, I could be wrong. I think it's like the FG Red or something that
Yeah,
goes
yeah,
into. I have Ozone in there for so I can like fix up like the LUFs that I want it set at, and then I'll also sometimes use like the referencing for like kind of copying the EQ shape for the masters. And then after that, I'll go into. It could depend. I could either go into like VTM just for like tape emulation, or I'll just go straight into VSX, and that's where I kind of like can check my mixes and just hear how everything sounds.
yeah. I used to have the Slate subscription, but I kind of I only really wanted it for the console emulation stuff, but
Yeah.
I found True Iron, and that kind of switched it for me because I checked. I don't know if you've checked it out, but True Iron, it's Transformer emulation, and I love Transformers.
Yeah, I think I had done the, well, like when I started working with the Mora from San Antonio, he was showing me like a lot of the Slate stuff. So like during the week I was recording for like my band's second album's pre-pro, he was showing me like little things here and there for some of the Slate plugins. So that's kind of how I got into it. I don't think I've really checked out the that brand that you were talking about, but I mean, I'm always down to look into what's around and stuff like that. Whatever, like I guess works well with like my workflow is usually what I'll try out and go for.
Yeah, so drum rooms are kind of, you're just talking about those. That's something I'm kind of big on with my stuff. So like I just got sent some drum tracks about less than a week ago, and there were no room tracks. It was just all the close mics. So what I did is I converted all the transients to MIDI, and then my favorite drum room is the one in Middle Farm out in the UK.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I have Matt Halpern GGD P3 kit, which is recorded there, a raw sampled kit there. So what
Oh,
I did
okay.
is for all the shells, mainly the toms, what I did is I found the tom that was closest sounding, then I used the pitch shifting in Contact to kind
Mhm.
of match the close mic sound of the toms that from the close mics, the live mics.
Oh, okay. I
And
see
then
what
I
you
just
mean. Yeah.
soloed the room and then printed out in stereo, and then now I have all the toms pitch matched, just room sound there, and I'm really familiar with that room too. So like I'm actually gonna start that mix I think tomorrow, and yeah, just the raw stuff sounds really great with that, with those fake rooms. And I also did the same thing for the kick and snare, and it just brought it out this whole lot more.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I don't think I've actually messed with the P3 kit. I know Raymond has. He likes using, I think that one, the Invasion, and then something else. The only kit I have, I think from GGD, I only have the P4, and then what is it? I think I have the Archetype one now. And I just have those two.
The archetype is really great. I use that one for all for my other stuff. Right, because I'm writing a bunch of stuff for some products I want to release, like some neural capture stuff, and then some sample packs. And I'm using Architects to write, and the kick sounds really great, and so does the snare. I love that snare.
Yeah, I like it for like a lot of big sounding stuff. That's definitely like kind of what sold it for me.
Yeah. So there's a segment I want to kind of do. where it's kind of like, I guess, word association. So I
Yeah.
would say word like vocal, and you would just give me the first word that comes to mind. Like it could be anything. It could be a mic. It could be a piece of gear. It could be something in your signal chain. Out in post, or it could be a mixing thing. So let's start.
Yeah.
All right. Guitars.
Sinister Gates.
Okay. Compressor.
Chris Moore.
Let's do. Okay. Let me throw a curveball in there. Tube.
Say 5150.
It's such a great amp. Let's branch off of there real quick because you just got a 5150. Which one is it? The Stealth?
The Stealth. I got the 50-watt Stealth from Sanchez.
Yeah, so how's that been?
So, ironically, like for years, I never really knew. Like, I could associate like amps with bands, so I would always associate like Mesas with Lamb of God and PV 6505s with like Black Veil.
Yeah.
I always kind of associated those, but I never really knew like their tonal characteristics. So like every time I would hear like 5150 and stuff, like I don't know why like it would turn me off because I just didn't know like what that specifically was on, why it made it so popular. And
Yeah.
it wasn't until I started doing I think when I was a freshman in high school, I had bought so I didn't have enough money to get a 6505 or a 5150. So I bought a Black Star HT Stage 100 and I really liked it a lot just because it had the ISF knob and it was cheap. So I got a whole half stack for a decent price. That probably would have been, I want to say it was like less than just the head alone from a 6505 Plus. And
Yeah.
so I started with that, and it wasn't until like years later that I was like starting to get into more understanding of what amps sounded like. And whenever I was doing my EP stuff, David Kaplinger had sent me 3 blind tests of little guitar sections, I think from 13. And he was like, I'm not going to tell you what these amps are. I just want to see what your general opinion is of each one of these. And then whichever one you like the most is the one that I think we should go with. And I listened to all 3 of them. And I think one of them, I was like, yeah, no, I don't like that one. And then there was 2 that were like really close, but one of them stuck out really well for me. And that one ended up being, I think, the 5150 with a blue channel and precision drive. And so like ever since then, I was like, dude, I didn't know that's like the sound that I've wanted for years. And I'm like a big advocate for, I love like what Fractal's done with amp modeling. I love what the Quad's done with modeling, Kemper too. But I, for a while, had just missed being able to just like have the actual thing and be able to mess with it like, on its own. So whenever I was looking around for amps and stuff, I saw Sanchez had the Stealth, and I was like, you don't even, if I'm using it for studio stuff, like even for live stuff, like at this point, like a 50 is fine. And so I went with that, and I got the precision drive, and I bought the Zool noise gate, and dude, it's like my favorite setup right now. So I'll usually run that into if I want to jam it like here inside, I do have my orange PPC 2x12. But if I'm recording, I'll run it into the Torpedo Live, and I'll either use one of the cabs on there, or I'll just turn off the cab section and use I think I just use the Nolly plugin, and I'll just solely use it for like the amp sim, so I can do my cab IRs on there. And it comes out sounding really, really good.
Yeah, much like yourself, I was kind of hesitant with getting a 1550 for my first amp, mainly because I've associated that sound with August Burns Red mainly, and that's kind of, or Periphery, and those tones are kind of brighter than what I was looking for.
Yeah.
because they're kind of bright and attacky. I just
Mm.
recently did a few months ago. I did a reamp session with it, and it's so versatile for an amp. Tonal wise, did a reamp session. And it was death metal, and I got it sounding really dark. Kind of, it's a really great all around amp.
Yeah, even now they have because you have the iconic, right? Yeah, and those ones sound like they sound really good. So that's kind of like makes me happy because a lot of like new upcomer musicians and guitarists, like you can actually get something like if you want an amp for stage presence or just for practicing and stuff, like dude, you have a way cheaper option now. You don't have to spend like 2 grand. You can just get a I think they even make combos, right? Or they're making combos.
Yeah, they have a 212 combo of the iconic.
Yeah, so it's like, dude, there's a really good option that doesn't sound like crap that you could use that will be able to overpower drums or at least be at a good level with a drummer um, that kids can afford now. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah. So let's go back to that. I guess quick fire segment. I don't need to find a name for that.
Mhm.
So let me think of something. Kind of. All right. So let's do interface.
Uh, let's say the Apollo
U87.
U87 Sphere.
FET 47.
Joey Sturgis.
Okay. How'd you get Joey Sturgis out of that?
I actually just watched one of the because I like watching those little shorts that Miami puts out,
Yeah.
and I think they were talking about different. I forgot what video it was. It was recent where he was talking about compressors and they're going into FET for a little bit, and so that's like instantly where my mind went.
So one thing I wanted to touch up on was kind of your mixing, or not mixing, production.
Mhm.
So like that's kind of one thing I'm really interested in, actual post production stuff, like synthesizers, impacts, subs, risers, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is there any particular methods that you have that you like to do?
So when I guess just a little bit backstory, right? Because I didn't really do a lot of that post production stuff until I met Chris Mora and Sebastian. Um, I would be like, dude, it'd sound really cool if you did this type of thing. I just don't know what it's called, and then like it'd be something super basic, and they'd be like, oh yeah, it's this, and I like it would blow my mind because I didn't know how to do any of that crap. And so now like a lot of the stuff I picked up off of them, um, I have like a little system. So like I do have like a production folder where I have like my bass drops, like the favorite ones that I like. Um, and then I just got the JST production folder. It has some cool stuff in there. I don't use everything from it, but I think there's 2 or 3 like specific risers that I like a lot in there. There's a couple of what is it, like impacts that are kind of like damaged sounding. So I do also have damaged. I use that a lot too for some post production stuff. And then like if it comes to like reverse snares or snare bombs, I'll just use whatever I'm using at the time and make it from scratch just so it fits a little bit better. Because some of them like you would have to either they'll sound good or they just sound like it in no way relates to like your actual kit. So I'll kind of mess around with some of those. I think the bass drop that I use all the time is from Splice. I just don't know which one it is, but I basically just took it from Splice and now I have it saved forever.
Have you messed with the analog synthesis yet?
I think as far as like synths go, I've only
Like,
really
well, like digital stuff.
oh
No, like I mean analog, but you messed with digital stuff,
uh
software synths.
yeah. So I've kind of messed around with like I have the whole complete package, and then I also have Anna too from Slate. And I usually just find majority of the stuff that I'm looking for synth wise, I'll either find an absinthe, or now I've been going to Anna a lot more too. Because again, Chris kind of helped me recognize like where to find certain things that I was looking for. He kind of helped me with figuring out like, okay, well that's like considered this, so you would go here and here. Um, so I usually just go to those, but sometimes, dude, if I'm like looking for something very specific, um, I will literally just sit there and do the hard way of just pressing a key and then listening to it, and then I'll just scratch them off. Like, nope, that won't work. That won't work. And then I'll write down which ones I like, and then I'll revisit those, and then just start shooting them out. Like, okay, well, what works better, like in the context of this song? And then I'll just play them. Like, I will write out like the MIDI line that I want for whatever that part is, and then I'll just play it, and then just listen to them and shoot them out, basically. And if like I get something that's pretty close, then I'll tweak it from there. But
Yeah.
usually I use those. I think Massive has some cool ones that I've used before, but it's usually Absinthe and Anna.
Okay. Well, I really recommend analog synthesis because analog synthesis you can you do more shaping. I get not shaping, but you have more flexibility than compared to with a plugin. Because like with my synthesis, going back to something else we talked about earlier in the conversation, it's a Behringer synthesizer, and it's really great. It's modeled after the Moog Model D, which is the classic synth.
Yeah.
And with it, I'm making crazy sounding loops and just weird sounds.
Oh, okay. I think I also I recently started using some of Machine stuff too. I had bought his production pack from Drumforge, and it has a lot of cool stuff in there. It also has like some one shots from the Sacrament kit. So I think it's more so like a production package than it is a like a drum pack. Because it has a lot more of like, you've got like bass drops, it has like gunshots, it has like risers, literally like everything, even crowd shots. If you needed like a crowd sound, it's got a bunch of those. So it's definitely really, really cool. I've been kind of messing a little bit more with that one. But majority of my workhorse stuff is going to be with like the JST stuff.
Yeah. One of those sample packs is something I want to make for myself. I'm gonna be making my own sample pack. I want to sample like glass shattering. I want to sample like gunshots or fireworks, kind of just some odd stuff here and there. I've been looking for just kind of more ideas for that kind of thing.
And then the other thing too, like figuring out how you're not gonna mess up your equipment. So like I've wanted to sample out like doing like rain,
Yeah.
like rain stuff, or more like that way. I guess like old school, like if you had an idea, you had to go and record it. You can just go to Splice and get it, and that way it's like, dude, no one else has that sample. Like you're the only one that holds that, and it makes it unique. So like I've always wanted to do like rain, or like from Cars, whenever you press on the gas and you hear it like start, you'll hear notes basically with like the hum of your engine. I've always wanted to figure out how to sample that type of stuff out, because it's like, dude, no one else is ever gonna have that unless you sell it, but then you make money off of it, so that's fine.
And it's really fun, just just going out there and making your own stuff, because it's unique and it's personal to you, and it has a story.
Yeah, that's actually like, so since I go to school here, university, whenever I'm like technically done now with like my percussion stuff, but when I was doing percussion, I was actively in the studio. That was like one of the cool things about getting to do percussion, and because like generally, like this school that I go to is not like, you're not going to go there and know like everything recording wise to a T, because it's basically like the point of it is like, if you're a musician and you want to record, it'll give you the tools for that. But the cool thing though is that I got to be surrounded by tons of like different styles of music, especially with percussion. So like I'll get pieces where like sometimes you have to get creative and you have to it'll tell you like what type of sound you're supposed to be going for, and it'll give you a description, and it'll give you a recommendation of what you want to use. But if you don't have that, you kind of got to get creative. One of the first pieces that I ever played, I had to use I think it's called like a pod seed or something like that. It looks like a leaf. It's from Mexico. It has beans inside of it. I think that's one of the cool things I liked about it, and I guess what made me get a little bit more fascinated with like the different things you could use for songs and pieces, because it's like you have to get creative sometimes. I think also, so my current professor there, that does percussion, Dr. Komjanovich, she had to audition with like a bunch of other professors to take our OG professor's job because he was moving. And so they each had to give a master class, and we were playing this insanely hard piece. Like I sucked. I'm happy I played that stuff, but it sucked. And she gave us, she had to basically teach us in front of everyone else with like the little bit amount of what she heard. She had to go off of that stuff, and she gave us some recommendations on stuff that I would have even thought of. Like, we had an issue with like our mallets being too bright. We're playing, and so she had recommended, I think using like Moleskin, or someone had recommended doing Moleskin, and then for me, she had recommended I had to play on these cans, and my sticks were like way too loud, and it didn't sound good. Like it was supposed to be pianissimo and a little bit more like smaller. Like the body of the sound wasn't supposed to be as big. So she gave me chopsticks to play on them, and I was like, dude, I would have never thought of that before. And so I think for the longest time, I probably still have them here. I kept those chopsticks because I was like, dude, you never know, you might need them.
Yeah. See, that's the kind of way I look at doing my productions. Like, I wrote for my first short film back in 2020 February.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any high-end string libraries, but I wanted to get that collennial sound, which is where the string players would slap the strings to the back side of the bow.
Yeah.
And I really wanted that sound, but I didn't have any samples that did that sound, and there weren't anything free that I liked. So what I did was I got a bunch of plastic clothes hangers, and I just kind of brushed them together, kind of get that plastic clicking sound.
Yeah.
And I used that for my first short film, and it sounded really
I know
good.
what you're talking about now. Now I know that sound. Okay.
Yeah, what I found recently with recording is that it's more psychological than it is musical, in a sense. Like when I record people and they're having a hard time with a part, I would usually just deviate from recording and just have like a conversation with them for like 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then get back right to recording, and then just kind of take their mind off recording, because I noticed for some people it's kind of stressful. It's kind of like going to the doctor's office in a way.
Yeah.
They're kind of like nervous about it, but kind of don't really want to. I don't know what the word is, but they kind of don't want to be there, I guess.
We have I was gonna say we have a word for it. It's studio brains. So basically, like when you're in that rut where it's just like, dude, nothing is working and nothing is making sense right now, and I hate this computer, and I don't want to hold this guitar anymore. This is all studio brains. Like everything just sounds like crap, and it helps. Like whenever, like you said, like if you have a good producer and they notice like those problems, dude, you can fix that issue by like either lightening their mood, so like joking with them or being like, dude, let's take like a break real quick, like let's chill out for a sec. We'll come back to this, or like we'll hit a different spot from now. That also sometimes helps too. I think there was a spot where I had no clue what to do. Either it was like a verse or something, and then Maura was like, "Well, dude, let's hit the chorus and let's fix this up, or let's hit the bridge or whatever." And because I was like, oh, "Okay, well, yeah, I know what I want to do there," then it's like it got my mind in thinking, "Okay, well, something positive is about to happen." And it got me in a better mood. And then after I was done with that, it was like, you know what? Actually, I do have an idea. Like now, let's go hit this part. So yeah, it is a very big like psychological thing sometimes, where it's like the artist themselves is kind of like the reason they're being like held back a little bit. And it does help whenever you have a producer that's like, oh, dude, well, let's do this, and just deviate from the problem for a little bit.
Yeah. All right. So we've been recording for about 2 hours now,
Yeah.
and so I have one more segment I made up a while ago. I need a name for this one too. This is the first episode, so it's cool for no name. But basically, this way this one's gonna work is you play guitar, drums, you sing,
Yeah.
record. So I'm gonna bring up something, say like guitar, right? And you give me your whole dream chain. So like for your main stuff, so like your dream amp, your dream cab, and then also for recording. So like what microphones you would want to use for recording,
Yeah.
the whole signal chain, what preamps, what. So let's get started with that. So singing, what mic do you think will work best for your voice?
So for you talking like live or studio?
Studio.
Okay, so studio, I think I'm genuinely like I'm set with this like sphere, to be honest. Like I really, really love using it. I've used like the 7B before.
Isn't it a modeling mic?
Yeah. I think the reason
So
that
why
I
don't you just,
well, I think the reason
why wouldn't you just opt for the real one?
Okay, so here's my thing with that. Like I do appreciate like the actual things cuz like obviously I have a stealth, you know. I do like having the real thing, but I like having just the fact that like everything that I need is right there. And it's like I haven't had anything where it's like, man, but I really wish it sounded like this. Like I haven't really had anything where it's like it would sound so much better if I had the real one. Like I know what it's going to sound like, you know, and I just like having the massive options with it. Especially since like, dude, ever since I've gotten this mic, I have a main set that I go to, which is like a blend of I think it's an 87 TK and a Sony 800. And it like, it's my favorite thing. I've been running all of my stuff for the new songs through it, and it sounds great. I think the first time I got it too, I sent it to Kaplinger just so he could hear like examples of it. And dude, he was like blown away by it. He loved that thing.
So you could blend two mics with it?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And you can also change like the effect to like the proximity effect of it. So like I run the little shield around it from SE, and you can also use like it has a proximity effect that you can mess with, and it's something for your room where you basically can choose like, are you recording with no what is it called? Like you're tracking with no treatment. You can do it with the little shield that I have. I think it also has a halo as an option, and then if you're recording it just straight up in a real studio vocal booth, it has all those options, and it sounds really good. Like in my room too. Like I've done my best to kind of like go in the room and take out all the things that are like resonating, but it just works so well. So this is like genuinely my favorite thing. I'd even shown my professor about it too, and dude, he loved that thing. The only thing he did say was he would personally want two of them if he got them, like for his studios.
Stereo pair.
Yeah, so that way if you wanted to, you can do a stereo pair with it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I want a 47, a FET 47, but I would want a stereo pair. So I was like, that's like another whole. I want the warm audio one. I think the warm audio one's like $1,000.
Yeah.
So that instead of spending $1,000, it'd be $2,000, which is a whole nother Quad Cortex.
Yeah, that was why like when I got this, I was debating between getting either this or the Slate one, and I like the Slate one. Like Chris has that one, and that one works really good. But when I was comparing, like, okay, well, how many mics am I going to be getting if I just solely get the base model Slate compared to the base model Townsend? Like, how many mics am I going to be getting, like, off the bat, no expansion packs or anything? And you get way more with the Townsend. And I liked all the extra little effects that it had in it. So that's why I ended up going with that. Not that I have anything against, like, Slate mics, because I do have two ML2s.
Yeah.
And they work really good, and I love those. But I just liked having more options for it, because another thing that I took into consideration was, like...
you kind of... you kind of sold me on that one, because I was actually thinking about getting the Slate one, but yeah.
Yeah, because the other thing too was like, let's say like when I track Marcus a lot for like either ideas that he has for Nino or like features, and or if I'm doing like pre-pro here. So like let's say if he brought me a track that he recorded on like a 7B, or actually even a better example. So when we did the Sionavez stuff, I think what's his name? Serafin, the producer that they worked with in Florida. He recorded everything with an AKG 414 or something like that, and they needed me to record the trumpets, and I think at first they weren't even going to do it, but Marcus was like, dude, no, like this song needs trumpets, and I know a guy that will do it, which is like our old band director, Mr. Garza, and he was like, my boy Chris has like this mic or whatever, and it might have the same mic they used, and Serafin looked at it and he was like, your boy has that mic, like, all right, yeah, that's fine, go use that. And we did it, and dude, like the trumpets came out cool. They sounded great. So I kind of like it where it's like, oh, you recorded all your stuff on a 7B. Like I have a 7B here, but let's say if I was traveling and it's like, I don't have a 7B on me, I could use it. And it's like, dude, it's really, really close to the actual thing. So that's why I'm like, I would choose this mic, like hands down.
All right. So what would you have the mic going to? What preamp?
1073. I just like it.
1073 is the best preamp. That I literally love the 1073 Neve stuff, the old Neve stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm getting next for MySpace is a set of 1073s, warm audio.
I've seen the for a little bit. I kind of stopped myself from wanting to get it because it's like I have other things that I have on my list that I need to get first. But if I had the money, it would be really cool if I could get one of those. They have a rack version of the 1073s where it's two of them together.
That's what I'm gonna get.
Yeah, so you could run like stereo if you needed.
There's one without EQ and there's one with the EQ.
I think the one that I would want is with EQ.
The one I'm getting is without, because I'm weird with tracking with EQ because you can't undo it.
Yeah,
and I like tracking darker anyways. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't really want to brighten anything up, because if I track with bright tones, my ears would get fatigued faster.
Yeah, I usually just do like just the slightest bit, and then I always will just run like a high pass. That way, like, I don't really have to cut that stuff when it comes in. But I know what you mean. Like that's why I kind of prefer doing, especially with like amps, unless I know for a fact like it's gonna sound fine with something, I will just run it in just straight. And I already know like, okay, well, this is my go-to plugin for delays. This is my go-to plugin for this. And I'll just solely do that, because once you record it, like that's it. Like it's kind of done unless you can get them back in. But if you're working with somebody who's like, they traveled like 3 or 4 hours to come track with you, it's like if you're running on time sensitive stuff, like you kind of need to take into consideration, like, dude, you're only gonna get one chance to track these out. Like you can't really bring them back in here.
Yeah, I experienced that like January, February, and I just right before the band came in, I just made quick generic tones just to track with, and then I could run it through later and reamp it later.
Yeah.
But something I noticed with preamps, an API preamp kind of thing is more kind of faster, and then like a 1073 is kind of like more slower, but it still has but it has more character. Like something like an API is more cleaner.
Mm-hmm.
But faster, but like a Neve 1073 is like slower, but in a good way. Slower, like it grabs what's there and make sure everything gets hit with that gain. Which is really great circuit. It's one of my favorite circuits. And that's actually why I going back. I got that plugin iron, True Iron.
Yeah.
Because it has a 1073 emulation, and I throw that in everything. That's the only thing. I think that's the only one I'm using.
Mm-hmm.
But so anything else in the signal chain, like an EQ compressor?
I'm like still. I think if anything, the freshest thing that I'm coming to learn right now is vocals. So, like I said, I'm generally just running the Benson vocals for it, because a lot of the bands I'm working with, they're sending their stuff out to get mixed and mastered somewhere else. Because I'm still entering that world, so it's like majority of the time I'll just make sure my levels are good, and that I'm making sure like everything gain wise is fine. Like nothing's like way too quiet, and I'm not just solely using the Benson for like fixing my input, you know?
Yeah, is there any like kind of like dB level you're trying to hit when on the way in when tracking?
I'm just making sure that it's not clipping, and that like I like when I push the 1073 a little bit, especially for like metal stuff, because it starts adding like a little bit of grit to vocals.
Yeah.
So that's usually what I'm doing. Like I'm making sure, like let's say if I get Marcus in, for example, I'd be like, dude, give me like sing me this line, and because I know that's like your heaviest line there, and that way I can adjust like your vocals like from that point. Because let's say like if I'm doing a song that's like a mix of screams and cleans, I'll make sure I have like kind of two general areas where I'm gonna jump to for my gain on the 1073. So that way it's like, okay, well, this spot's going to be switching between clean and scream. So I got to find like, now I know that's my middle ground to hit for that part. And if it's just solely screams, I'll hit this part. And if we're doing cleans and softer stuff, I can hit this.
Yeah, well, I kind of had that similar thing, but I started tracking with compression, and I love tracking with compression. I'm probably never gonna track without compression anymore, because it tracking with compression just really helped with, I don't know, it just helped the tracking. It was more smoother.
Yeah.
There wasn't any hassle with plugins. It just, and I did it safely. On my 76, I just have the attack halfway and then release all the way fastest at the fastest setting, because I wasn't really sure on how the vocals were going to be for this tracking session. But yeah, just tracking with compression is just really great for setting an input level on your converters.
Yeah, and then it's easier too to handle once it's already in there. It's like you already kind of helped tame some stuff already, so
yeah, I wouldn't track. I kind of a rule I kind of set for that, though. Even though we said about not setting rules, it's just kind of a safety net rule for me. Is that I will never track with more than 5 dB of compression, because compression is just for monitoring really, and then for ease of mixing later to take off some plugins. But I never would want to track with more than 5 dB of compression, just because I don't want to squash anything. Or say there's a soft singing part, I wouldn't want to squash it. So like it's just one of those things where it's like it's just safety net, and it just helps out in general with the person singing.
yeah, because you still want dynamic contrast in there. You don't want to just squash it all.
Yeah. So I guess that's it for recording with vocals. What about for guitar? What's your dream? Let's go from guitar all the way to hitting the converters.
Yeah, so for guitar, like my dream guitar, like I still love, I love Schecter and stuff, and I haven't had any issues with their stuff. So I love the blackjack that I use. It feels really good. It's actually the only guitar that I have with a gloss neck that I still like. I have.
Are you a Tonewood guy?
Not really.
Okay.
I've kind of like messed up. Like I do notice like some slight differences, but I think it has more to do with like the density of the like I guess the wood itself, and how much like is cut out from the body, like compared from like a tremolo quick guitar to like just a solid body.
Yeah.
But I would run that with I have my bare knuckle painkiller in the bridge and the Sustainiac in the neck. I really like that setup. And then I would run that into an Angle, Ritchie Blackmore. I don't know if it's like a 120 watt or what it is, but dude, I love either the Ritchie Blackmore or the just the Angle Savage. I really love those two amps. Those are like my dream amps. They're just expensive as hell.
Yeah, Angle makes some good stuff. Actually, there was that one Angle that came out a few years ago. I don't know if you saw it, but it was like you could tweak every single bias of every little thing. You could tweak anything internally from the amp, because it had all the knobs on the outside, on the back side, and it was like 4 channels. I don't know if you've seen that one. That's my dream. That's like one of my top 3 amps I want.
Yeah, I've seen some crazy ones from Angle, and they're expensive, but they're awesome. I got introduced to Angles from watching Jake Pitts' videos. He had the Ritchie Blackmore. That's where I first heard of it, and it just sounded so good. So I would basically have like my guitar run into maybe like a Precision or a Tube Screamer into the amp, then send that out I would either just use my cab sims, or if I had to use an actual amp, I like the Mesa Oversized. Those are really cool. I also like my Orange amp too. That one, the cab sounds really good. Uh,
What speakers?
uh, Dude, whichever ones came into whichever ones are in the PPC, I'm fine with those. But I mean, I like the vintage C30s. Those are always they work. They do good. Um, I've heard some other ones that are pretty cool too. I think Chris sent me some IRs with I don't know if they were creambacks. It was from his Zilla cab. Those one sounded good. I also know Sanchez loves is it Vader cabs? I think.
I think that's the name.
Yeah, they're custom cabs from this dude, and those sound really cool too. He sent me some samples from those, and they sound really nice. And yeah, I would just run that. If I was miking it, I would just do the general 57, and maybe like a ribbon for it. And then yeah, and I would just run that in. And I've had that work really good for me for a lot of my tones. I just redid I think Raymond had sent me some stuff to reamp, and I found like a pretty badass setup with I think I was using an Uber Bogner from or a Ubershaw from on my Axe FX, and then I ran that into I think it was a 4x12 Hellwind, and I think that one was using I don't know if I was using the 57 one because he has several several different ones for each amp, and so I think I either use just the Soul 57 or I use the mix, which is like all of them blended together, and then I think I use the Bogner as well, but I don't remember. Either I did like one where it was like brighter, and then I had one that was more body, and I just blended those two together, and it sounded really good. But that would be my general amp setup for bass.
But what about preamp tracking, or like tracking with preamps or like EQs, compressors?
I think as far as that goes, like I don't really think I've gotten too like crazy with it. I just usually run it into either
Direct.
Yeah, either just direct or what do you call it? I would use like the either the Midas preamps that I have on my Behringer, or even even tried the 1073 on there. But I think I don't really worry too much about it as long as like I'm getting the sound that I want. I think that's usually what works for me.
Well, to me, preamps are kind of like this thing that kind of give a whole general direction tonality wise with the whole mix kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
that's why I'm kind of asking you. That's why I'm getting into preamps a lot. I've been getting into preamps a lot lately, and kind of figuring out what they're doing and how they're doing it. And so like that's kind of why I got into the URM stuff recently, because now the mix, and I wanted to check out some of the stuff that's been tracked with good preamps and see how much of a difference it kind of sounds compared to stuff that was all tracked direct.
Yeah. No, I get you, because I mean I started realizing like people did that type of stuff ever since I've been watching it. So there has been like a couple things I've seen people do that it's like, like I never would have really thought about that.
Like people will tell you that a preamp is like it's just a small change, but like if you stack that change over across multiple tracks, it adds up to this one large change in sound. So
yeah.
It's like
yeah.
Preamps are cool. Preamps are cool, but like it's kind of like you have to work up to that kind of thing. It's not like something you just kind of. You get a good preamp and then your recordings are good. You just have to. It's kind of a thing you work up to.
Mm.
But let's get on to bass.
Yeah. So bass, I really like. So I have this stealth bass from Schecter. It's like a 5-string. It's actually like a good middle ground bass. It's not that expensive compared to a lot of the other ones they have. I do want to try some of the Evil Twin ones that they have, but this one, dude, like is actually like really, really good. I used it for the first time when I was recording with Chris for the second album stuff for my band, and it just sounded like super, super good. Like we boosted basically all the EQs on it, and I think I kept the blend in the middle, and then we would just run that into the Dark Glass plugin. I do have an Alpha Omega pedal, but I think generally for all my bass stuff, I've just been doing like everything in the box compared to using outside stuff. For like live stuff,
you said using Well, you said you're using both the Parallax and B7K model, right?
Yes. Yeah. And that's
If you had to
also
pick
like
one, which?
I was gonna say if I had to pick one, I would probably do the B7K, only because like I think I generally like the bite out of that one more than Parallax. Parallax is really cool, like if you're trying to get everything like out from that one, because it does a lot of it'll do like the split for you to where you get your high and low out of it. But I think when I was doing recording with Raymond, he started with just using the B7K, and he did have an optional like sub with it, and he was showing me like examples like, well, he's like, I didn't use one for this song and it sounded like this, and it was like, oh, well, dude, that sounds like perfect. Like, and then he would show me like, I think with mine we ended up using the sub, but I realized like, dude, he even just used one track for bass and it came out fine.
Yeah, I recently started messing with that more because I used to just tweak the knobs on the B7K pedal on the plugin, and then I
Yeah.
started messing with the cab stuff, and I saw that there was a sub mic option on there, and like, oh, that's pretty interesting, and that kind of like changed the game for me with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
So like, some mics are great, even though like I probably wouldn't ever use one on bass cab.
Mhm.
It's still like more of a fun toy to play with than it is like more useful, I guess.
Yeah.
It is useful, but like it's more of a, you have to like kind of have the time to do it, and it's not like time's precious in the studio.
Yeah.
So,
With the live bass, I do have I have Mick's old bass rig from Shattered. So I have his Mesa M9 carbine, and then I have his, dude, I don't even know if it's a what bass cab it's all I know is it's expensive. Like I got it for a really good deal from Mick, and so it's a huge bass cab. So if I ever really needed that huge of a bass cab, I have that option available. But majority of the time, for the band's sake, like just for ease of travel and setup, I would just be running live stuff through the Alpha Omega.
yeah. All right. What else do you do? Well, let's just do drums. Drums are kind of the more intensive one because you know they're cymbals,
Yeah.
shells.
So right now, what I'm running is I have the SE Arena Pack for my mics. For the snare, I'm still just doing the 57. I don't like the V7 that they have in there for snare. It is a cool mic.
Have you tried side miking the shell of the snare?
No.
That's something you gotta try with. Try it with one of the Slate VM, the modding mics.
The ML2.
Was it ML2?
Yeah.
You try it with that because that's really interesting because it just adds this weird like body to it. Because with the top mic, you know, you're usually getting like, I guess the slap from the snare drum.
Yeah.
And with the bottom mic, you're getting the snare wire sizzle. But with having a mic on the body, you kind of get more on the shell. You kind of get this weird mid-range kind of pop. Which
Yeah.
kind of it's kind of like adding a third dimension to the snare, and it really brings it. I find it easier to mix.
Mm-hmm. Right now, like, so the way I have this set up, because I have Rob's new cymbals that he ordered in here, I kind of have to like, the reason I only did the top snare for this setup right now is because I have a chopper cymbal that's like right kind of in the way of where I normally mic up the snare.
All right.
But yeah, I have, so like right now the way I have these drums set up is I have my overheads about 4 feet away, equally from the snare center. I'm using the mics that came with the SE pack, and then
Are you doing space pair XY ORTF?
I want to say it's just over. Like I'm just having, I don't like legit. I don't know. I just know I have them straight down, equal distance from the snare.
Okay, so you're doing space pair.
Yeah, and then for the only two weird ones that I have right now, so I have 2 of Rob's splashes in the center of the kit. I have an ML2 in between both of those that's facing upward, and then I have for the ride, I have a 57 underneath the ride, towards the bell. So that way I can blend that in there. And then I have for the chopper cymbal and the hi-hat, since they're right next to each other, I have the same thing where the ML2 is facing in between both of those. So I still get the hi-hat sound, and I also get the chopper sound as well. Like, I'll have to technically like sample in their volumes a little bit more so you can hear them, but it captures it like really well, so you have like more of the room sound coming out from it. And then
So with those mics that are capturing two things, like the two splashes or the chopper and the hats, would you chop up the sections and have like, say, the hi hat on one track and then the chopper on another track?
right now I have like so like what I'll do is just like when I'm actually like mixing it down, I would just cut out the sections with the chopper and separate that. So I would like put the chopper on a separate track, since they're both kind of coming out on that. But I'm never like, there's never a point where I'm hitting, at least for this case, I'm not hitting the chopper and the hi-hat at the same time. So it's easier to separate the two.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like legit, I just use a hi-hat channel just so I can get the stick attack on it. Because there is hi-hat everywhere, obviously, in overheads, like the most annoying thing. but yeah, I use that just specifically for like stick attack, so I can really hear it come out a little bit better. And I'm usually just cutting out like majority lows, just so I get that like you can identify when you're listening to it in your headphones, like, okay, now that's coming in from like the left side, rather than it being all over the place in the overheads.
Yeah. That's something I noticed with people, the drummers, when drummers do recording and they're not really keen on recording. Like you kind of like hear like, oh, like, because they learn like to gain stage, like not gain stage, but like, to not have anything clipped. So like the hi-hats, like the overhead mics would kind of just be like, like a 2 dB away from clipping, and it's like, oh, it's just really loud, and all you hear is hi-hats, and then like,
yeah.
Or they would have some mics like pointing at other stuff too. Like say the tom mics will be like, say like there's doing a 5-piece kit, and they could have like the second rack tom pointing down at the rack tom too, but it could also be is pointing at the snare also. So it's like, oh, it's kind of picking up a lot of snare bleed as well.
Yeah, so I think I learned from like when I was working with Raymond, that was my first time really doing live drum stuff. And he kind of freaked me out a little bit when I was doing we're setting levels for overheads, because I thought just hop on and play the kit and make sure it's not clipping. But he was like, no, dude, just hit the snare like a good solid hit, and we're gonna match it off of that, because your snare is gonna be your center point, and that like made more sense to me. So now like setting levels drum wise is a lot easier. But I guess getting back to like the setup, I would run all those into, I think right now I have my kick drum going into, I think all the pre's that I'm using are 1073s as far as Apollo goes. So I have the kick drum going into 1073. My hi-hat line, I have it technically going into a DBX 286 pre. And then my overheads, those are also set with the 1073. They had a preset in there that I forgot who uses it. I tweaked it a bit from what it was. But that one sounded really good. And then the rest, like I think I'm using the snare on the 1073, my ride on 1073, and then the toms, I'm using the Behringer Midas pre's. And then I have those sent in, and just running basically VMR for like majority of like all my plugin processing.
Okay.
But if I had a dream setup for like drum set, I would basically be picking like, I really like, I like DW a lot, but it's expensive, and I'm
really
kind
expensive.
of I'm kind of more so cool with like, I really just mainly focus on like if my snare is sounding good, I'm happy. And so I want to get a Black Beauty for my snare. For my drums, like, to be honest, dude, like even just being in percussion and stuff, like I've messed with a lot of different brands, and I'm kind of like cool with like whatever, to be honest. Like I think that's like kind of like the beauty of being able to create a sound for yourself is like, dude, even if I had to go away with like a PDP kit or something, like PDP is still really good. Like they're offshoot from DW and they sound fine. They're affordable. Same thing with Mapex. So like I'm kind of like, I'm not really as like keen when it comes to like, oh, I really just want this specific kit. The only thing I'm like more so I guess now interested in is like I want my snare.
Cymbals.
It's snare and cymbals
too. Cymbals.
Yeah.
Yeah, snare and cymbals, because snare is kind of like the voice of the drum kit, and the cymbals, you can't tune cymbals. So it's like, once you buy a cymbal, you're stuck with it.
Yeah.
Like with, you buy a $25 kids drum kit and make it sound like, a DW, but you can't tune a cymbal. So.
Dude, yeah, exactly. So Rob's really sold me on Sabian, because he's a Sabian artist. So like he just got in.
Yeah.
Dude, like a beautiful amount of cymbals. So I've been jamming on those. I'm gonna be using them on a cover sometime soon, and they just sound so good. I've always been like a Zildjian type of dude, but I mean, since Rob's kind of surrounded me with Sabian, like I really love them. And then a lot of my drummers that I like too, they like Sabian. So I know what is it? Portnoy loves he's with Sabian. He's been with Sabian for a long time. Same thing with the Rev from Avenged, and then Blake Richardson from Between the Buried and Me. And I've always loved their sound too. I think like if I were to get some cymbals, it'd probably just be these ones.
Yeah, and have you noticed the difference with the drum heads, like between brands? Like,
yes.
To me, like an Evans is kind of like drier sounding.
Yes, I use I just bought some heads for Rob's kit because I'm going to be using it a lot here since I watch it, and I was like, I don't want to mess up your heads, and they were already kind of like dead from tour anyways, so I went and bought I want to say it's the heavyweight from Evans for the snare, and then the toms. They didn't really have that much for toms at Guitar Center when I went there, and I hate going to Guitar Center like with a passion. Not saying all Guitar Centers are bad, but like I don't like the one from here. So,
well, why not? Because I have a different reason why.
I think it's more employee wise. So I will say this: when I was younger, dude, and I came to the Guitar Center here in Corpus, they had this dude. I think his name is Davey.
I know you're talking about. He works in the microphone section, right?
No. So he used to work there. He works in. There is a dude that works in the pro audio section that I love. He's awesome. He's a great dude.
Yeah, he's kind of like quiet, kind of.
Yes.
But he's really talkative too.
Yes.
Yeah, he's my favorite guy to buy from.
Super cool dude. But this dude used to be like I think the manager for the Guitar Center when I was in like the 7th or 8th grade. This is like when I was first buying like my first guitar. He was like the coolest.
I think I might know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he was the coolest dude ever. He was really nice. He kind of looked like Danny from Upon a Burning Body.
Yeah.
So anyways, I used to love going there, dude. And then whenever he left, like, so I bought, because I'm really into Black Veil, I bought a Mockingbird. And dude, like, I had to order it 2 times because I guess whatever warehouse they had it at, it had issues like where it was like the pickup guards are cracked and there was like scuffs and stuff all over. And I was like, dude, I'm paying $1,000 for this guitar. Like, I want it good. And so I ordered it a second time, had to wait like 3 weeks for it. And it comes in and I was like, cool. And I was like, can you guys tune it for me? Like, I want y'all to restring it with these strings and tune it for me in drop C. And that was going to be like my main guitar that I just kept in C because I didn't know how to tune a Floyd guitar at the time. And dude, they charged us like $60 and didn't even tune it properly. Like the bridge was like all the way down. Every string was touching every single fret and we couldn't get a refund for it. So that sucked. Damn. I also had another situation where I tried selling like some cymbals there, and this dude like for the longest time was like avoiding me, like when I went to go ask questions, like, hey, I want to sell these things, but like he kept, avoiding it. And then he went on lunch. And so I waited for like at least an hour until he got back. Cause I was just trying to get some quick cash off of it. Like I didn't need the hi-hats anymore. And I remember he got back and dude, I forgot what it was, but he just looked super annoyed. And I was like, hey man, like I just wanted to ask, like, how do I go about like selling these here or whatever? Cause they, they take used stuff. I know like the price is basically like GameStop theory where you don't get that much from it, but I already knew that. And then he was like, dude, I have no use for cymbals. Like we're not taking any cymbals. And I was like, you couldn't have told me that like an hour ago, man. Like when I asked. So yeah, I've had just a lot of general bad, like, I guess more so like interactions with employees. Not to say all the employees are bad, because I know some pretty cool people. One of my buddies works there for lessons, and like those people I'll usually always go to. But if they're not there, I will like get out of that store like immediately.
Yeah, they're kind of like some of the employees there are kind of like they don't want to just do anything. They just kind of want to hang out there. They don't really want to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I prefer for years, like because of them, like I think whenever they messed up my bridge and didn't tune it right and charged me, I took it to Sound Vibes, and that was my first time going to Sound Vibes, and legit they just took it, restrung it for me. I think they tuned it while we were there in the store, and then they didn't even charge me because they were like, "Who did this?" And I was like, they were like, "Was it the guys from down the street?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they were just like, "Dude, don't even worry about it. We'll fix it for you." And they were really cool. And like ever since that point, dude, like I've always been a big advocate for Sound Vibes because they're just really good people. They're really nice there, and they've always like ever since I was in high school, dude, they have hooked me up nonstop. Like I think the last time, maybe like a couple months ago or a year ago, I'd gone there and I had to do something, and I guess one of the new guys there was like, "Oh, well, like I guess we could see what we could do." And then one of the guys that I've known there for years is like, "Oh no," he's like, "We're gonna help him right now. Like this dude's family, like blah blah blah." Dude, they're like always super cool there, so I love that store.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite places to go in Corpus.
Anytime, if anyone has anything to do with musical instruments and getting them repaired, stop by there first, because it's like you're not going to be disappointed. They'll tell you like if they can help you or not, and they're not going to just do it for money.
So we're ending the podcast. Is there anything you want to shout out or link? Have me link in the description.
Yeah, I'll provide my website, and then I guess I could put in the band thing on there, but yeah, go check out my band, Say Your Mind. Working on actually our singles. I think Coco's is gonna start mixing it on Thursday, so should have a single not soon, but soon.
Right, and yeah, I'll have that linked in the description when it comes out. So awesome, thank you so much.
Hell yeah, dude! Thank you for having me, man. It was fun.
All right, bye.
Later.